This herb-filled stuffing is moist, flavorful, and gluten-free. I start by chopping onion and celery. I heat up a large skillet, and once it's hot, I add a stick of butter and allow that to melt. Then I add the onion and celery and allow that to saute until soft. I'm saving the scraps from the onion, celery, and garlic. I put them in a freezer bag and save them until I have enough to make a stock. Check out my short on making veggie broth that is very flavorful, super easy, and cheap. While the onions and celery are cooking, I'm going to mince my garlic. The garlic goes in for a couple of minutes, then I add my seasonings. I like to toast the herbs for a minute or two to bring out the flavor. I'm mostly using dried seasonings today. Let's be real, not everyone has access to fresh herbs, and they do cost more than the fresh alternative. I'll give the amounts for both fresh and dried herbs in the show notes below. Separately, I'm cooking a plant-based sausage. This variety is spicy. The sausage isn't required for this dish, but it does add a great deal of depth of flavor to the stuffing. I'm using 12 cups of dried bread in this recipe. I always prefer to use a combination of breads. Today I'm using 3 different types. 2 are loaves that I previously made and then froze portions. The last is a sliced white bread, all gluten-free. You can really use any bread that you enjoy. Dried or stale bread should be used in stuffing. There are 2 options here. Either cube or hand tear the bread and leave it on a tray overnight to allow it to harden. Or place a cubed or hand-torn bread on a baking sheet and dry it out in the oven at 300 degrees for 30 minutes. The stale bread goes into a large bowl with a handful of fresh parsley. I then add the cooked onions, celery, and sausage. These next 2 ingredients are very optional. I use walnuts or pecans to add more of a texture to the dish. You really don't taste the nuts. I also add dried fruit. Today I'm using dried cranberries. I also like dried cherries or apricots. This adds a touch of sweetness to every bite. After adding the salt, the broth goes in. I'm using veggie broth that I made, but you can use whichever broth you like. Unfortunately, my camera shut off while adding the broth. I also buttered a large Pyrex baking dish to prevent sticking. The stuffing is covered with aluminum foil and baked for 45 minutes. I then remove the foil and cook for another 15 minutes. The final dish should have some crunchy bits at the top and a more moist stuffing underneath. Check out my channel for more holiday recipes.